By now, you've probably heard my magic wand story. It's a brand that's been part of my personal journey for more than 20 years. But no matter how many times I sing Magic Wand's praises, I'll never be able to fully capture the story of this incredible brand. Well, now journalist and author Kate Sloan just completed a limited audio series documenting the history and impact that Magic Wand has created over the last 56 years. It's called Making Magic. And the series chronicles Magic Wand's incredible brand story through interviews with nearly 40 experts, performers, business owners, educators, and fans. So I got a sneak preview of this series, and what I loved is that Kate weaves together snippets from all their interviews into this amazing story arc. She covers Magic Wand's journey from appliance store massager to its legendary influence on culture and sexual independence, and it's all just fascinating. The first episodes of Making Magic are available now at makingmagicseries.com or on all popular podcast platforms. Just search for Making Magic or visit makingmagicseries.com today. Thanks for listening to Sex with Emily. On today's show, I'm giving you the clit notes. Get it? Clitoris. I love that. On all things vulva. So if you've got one of your own or you're really good friends with one, you want to write a few things down. And I'm answering your emails. Topics include the clitoris, how to touch it, how to love it, how to understand it, how to make friends with it, how to cuddle with it. Oh, we're going to get into it. What to do when you're trying your hardest not to catch any feels. You're married, but you're starting to wonder, I wonder if the grass is greener on the other side. You know that. And I got to tell you, when you get to the other side, you wonder if the grass is greener over there. It's a whole thing. And long distance tips to keep the fires burning miles and miles away. All this and more. Thanks for listening.
Into his eyes. They're the eyes of a man obsessed by sex. Eyes that mock our sacred institutions. Bedroom eyes, they call them in a bygone day.
Hey, Emily, you got a boyfriend? Because my man E here, he just got his heart broken. He thinks you're kind of cute.
A girl's got to have her standards. Oh, my.
Do women know about shrinkage?
Isn't it common knowledge?
What do you mean, like laundry? It shrinks?
Can we not talk about sex so much?
Are you kidding me?
Oh my God, it feels so good.
Being bad feels pretty good. But you know, Emily's not the kind of girl you just play with.
You're listening to Sex with Emily. We're talking about sex, relationships, and everything in between. For more information, go to sexwithemily.com. Check out all the great posts and blogs and things we have on the site. Do you know about our site? It's there. It exists. So you can have better sex and relationships. All the reasons why you're listening. Plus, we love, you guys are cool, because you know why? When I'm like, hey, you know what would be awesome? If you subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and write a comment. And you guys are doing that, and it's awesome. We could even read some. Maybe next week we'll read some of them. Anyway, I love you all. Thank you for subscribing wherever you listen. We appreciate it. Also, check me out on SiriusXM Radio, which is amazing. I love doing that, you guys. It's on Stars Channel 109. I'm there Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific. It's amazing, and you should totally get a free trial. sexwithemily.com/SXM. And you can follow us on all social media. It's at Sex with Emily across the board. All right. I am so excited for this show today. Welcome to the Clit Notes. Ta-da! Thank you, Jamie.
That was my horn.
We got Jamie here. That was a good horn. Jamie, I'm finding out so many things after 3. You know, you're never done learning. I didn't know you could do a horn, and I didn't know you could draw a clitoris from memory. No.
Yeah.
No, she drew a very detailed clitoris the other day. Speaking of clitoris, she's a draw. You draw. Okay, you guys, this show, here's why it's important. Because even if you're like, I know my clitoris, it gets me off. It's, you know, I know what it does. I know how it feels. You know, it's like, it's how I have orgasms. There's a lot of people, though, a lot of you, including myself, when I started, I never thought to touch it. I didn't understand it. So I think today's show is going to be helpful for women who might never really taken a gander. You haven't looked around. You don't really understand masturbation. You don't really know how to do it. And you kind of, maybe you do it, but you feel shame around it. It's also going to be helpful for those who already masturbate. And it's working for you. And it's good. But you're like, you know what? I could probably take this up a notch. Emily says there's 8,000 nerve endings. How do I know if I've tapped into all of them? Guess what? You probably haven't. Also helpful for people who have partners that are women or vulva having partners. How to touch them in different ways. How to understand what the clitoris, what the vulva wants. You're not a mind reader. We're going to help you. So let's begin. All right, this is tutorial on touching the clitoris, the vulva, exploring the body, all that stuff. And I'm just going to go off. I mean, I have to assume maybe some of this is new, maybe it's not. And I don't know, I need to hear things a few times. So I'm not mincing words here. Let's talk about the clitoris. It has 8,000 nerve endings. And it's not just that little tiny bulb, that little tiny bump above your vaginal opening. It's actually has legs that extend behind your labia. So you know your labia, it's like a wishbone, right? So picture your labia and then picture the little clitoris. That's what it is, like an upside down V. Mm-hmm. That whole thing is a clitoris. Plus there's internal clitoral nerves. There's a lot. And its only purpose on the planet is for female pleasure. Like there's literally, men don't have something that's just for male pleasure. Like their penis is like for sperm and procreation and peeing.
And the prostate is for sperm and other...
Yeah, for sperm and other, like the prostate is for sperm. It's an important part of their pelvic floor functioning. But it doesn't exist for pleasure, which is why we need to talk all men into exploring it. Mm-hmm. For women, we just have this thing and there's no other purpose for pleasure. Yes. But we don't often understand it. We don't know how it works. And we're going to break it down. Okay, so let's start out. We're going to go over some masturbatory beginnings and why some of you might have shame around it. So we were talking about this. I was like, I mean, you guys, I could do 85 podcasts right now just on your clitoris and masturbation and the G-spot and all that. But I was like, well, why? Because I want to give people everything. And I thought, because we all need to, no one talks about it. So I never, ever thought about it. Masturbation. I didn't know what the clitoris was. I didn't know anything because I never had an orgasm on my own. I was never one of those, like a lot of girls tell me that their first orgasm was when they were riding a bike or they were in the bathtub or they were, rubbing up against their stuffed animal. And they were like, oh, they were maybe 5 or 7 or 12. And they're like, oh my God, that feels really good. And then they're like, oh, instantly for many, there's like shame or it's maybe like their mom caught, a parent walked in and said, oh no, I just read a story about a mom who slapped her child. Anyway, it was dark for masturbating. So like you guys, but you don't even remember these things. And at some point you were humping your pillow or you were using a faucet or you were squeezing your legs together really tight and you figured out they gave you pleasure. And you didn't understand it and you knew it felt good. But then like one day maybe your mom walked in or your brother walked in and was like, what are you doing? Stop that. That's dirty. That's wrong. And then every time you did it, it instantly became shameful and private. And you still didn't understand it though. No one was like, oh babe, no, listen, that's something for pleasure. Do it on your own. Do it in your bedroom though. Like then don't let anyone else do it for you until you're ready. It's yours. Have fun with it. But like discretion, do it on your, you know what I'm saying? But like, that's it. It's like, here's how to use chopsticks. Your parents like, hold them this way. It takes you a few tries. Chopsticks took me a while to learn like how to hold them and stuff. And then you go, okay, thanks mom and dad. Or like, here's how you ride a bike. But their clitoris, they're like, either they say nothing because my parents said no one talked to me about it. Or they're just like, don't do that or whatever. We figured out our own. I was not like any of you. I was 20 years old having sex with partners. And I had to turn to my friends and say, what the hell is this? Why is sex so great? Why does it feel good? Why is it interesting? And they're like, oh, don't you have orgasms? Don't you masturbate? I was like, no, I never even occurred to me to masturbate. I don't even know what that means. And they're like, well, don't you have orgasms? I was like, I never have any of those things. That sounds fun. So that sounds like I'm missing out. And then I had to go to work and do the work that we're going to explain here to figure out what made me feel good. And I've talked to a lot of younger women about this. They're like, oh no, like 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. Gosh, even my friends who are my age, they don't talk to anybody about it, right? Especially when we're younger. Nobody talks about it, clearly. But guys, we kind of know guys jack off. There's like that scene in American Pie. Was that like, or wherever.
The apple pie.
With the apple pie. And you're like, oh, boys put their penises in things and do stuff. Like they want to hump things like my dog does sometimes.
It was acceptable for guys to be perverts.
Exactly. But women, we seem weird. We're seen as perverts. We don't understand it. When really, talking about masturbation and exploring your body truly, truly, truly is the very best way that I know about as a doctor of sex, of all my years of research and talking, is the very best way to have the healthiest relationship possible with sex, with pleasure, with asking for what you want, with like knowing what you need. Like that's another thing. Like a lot of times we don't even know what feels good to ourselves and then we expect our partners to figure it out. So this is your fast track to pleasure. So here's how you start masturbating. Are we ready to get into there?
Yes.
Or should we keep going with my clitoris?
No, I like this.
All right.
Unless you want to talk more about your clitoris.
Well, like, the thing is, I think we covered shame. We covered trauma.
Well, trauma is a whole other thing.
No, I'm just saying that,
We
like,
can get it. Yeah, if you want to get.
I mean,
into
all
that.
I'm saying is I'm just trying to think of, okay, because what I'm going to get into next is how to do it. Like, how you're going to get comfortable with masturbation. And I got to say, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm always learning new things about masturbation. And I've been masturbating for almost 30 years. And you're never done. There's always something new to learn. And it's like exercise for your pleasure zone. It's exercise for your
I mean, there are
power
muscles.
source. It's exercise for your power. It's like how you work everything else out. But this part that we don't even realize that it's controlling so much of our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions. And if we are not connected to our body, like I'm just trying, like if we're not connected to it and we walk around like it's just some weird body part that we're ashamed of and we don't like the way it looks, and a partner maybe shamed us about it at some point, or we saw porn perhaps and we thought, well, mine doesn't look like the women in porn, or it doesn't look like my friend in the gym, or it doesn't look, or I've had a lot of kids, a lot of women we hear from are like, it's changed, and so therefore I hate it. Like a lot of us women hate their bodies. They don't even love their vagina or their vulva. They've never even looked at it. That's huge, you guys. I don't want to give you too much homework, but I want you to take what you like here and leave the rest. But I'm telling you, a game changer is closing your door, locking it, and taking out a mirror, set the mood, lean back, take a look, and see what happens when you use some lube, when you start to touch yourself, and just like get curious about it. Because you think it's ugly and the only one you've ever seen was in porn or your friends. And it's beautiful. Every single one's different. Mm-hmm. It's like saying, like watching when you're watching a TV, you're like, why don't I look like anyone? Like
Everyone's body, even elbows. Everyone's elbows look different.
Thank you. Our elbows are different. Our noses are different. And if yours is like it, just like the more you love it, the more it's going to love you back. So I'm talking about getting familiar with it. And what's so cool about this is when you actually look at it in a chill way. I'm not saying you need like a fucking stethoscope, a magnifying glass.
Put on your spectacles.
Or you might. I'm just saying look at it and get curious and be like, oh, interesting, because I didn't realize that like everyone's different. So it might be like for some women, it helps to be aroused. It's like under a little hood. There's like a clitoral hood. And once they get turned on, the head rolls back and it reveals their clitoris. And some women's hood is already out. And some's clitoris is just out all the time going, hi, here I am. And you have to coax it out sometimes, And then once you get more aroused and turned on, if you're looking at it, you'll start to see that it like kind of swells up, like it blossoms like a flower. Mm-hmm. And like that's like the blood that starts to flow there. So when I always say, like when you're in your head during sex and you're thinking thoughts, the blood is going to your brain. It's not going to your clitoris. And so you're not turned on and in the mood.
Yeah, like thinking too much will actually like pull away from it.
It sucks that blood up to your brain. And then
Your
you're having
brain is
negative.
like
And then your blood is up there in the brain going, I hate my vulva. I have an ugly body.
Your brain is like a
I
genital
hate my
vampire.
clitoris. It is bam. Your brain is a genital vampire. Don't let it suck that blood. Bring it back down there to the energy. Okay. So
Now that you're imagining the clitoris in every kind of way possible.
right. But I'm going to go back to the minute. It changes over time and gets aroused when you get more turned on, which I'm going to explain in a moment. But that's going to be an interesting note to take, that when you're trying to get turned on or aroused on your own or with a partner, that it actually changes. So when your partner, let's say you're with a man who doesn't have a vulva and he comes in with his penis quickly and hard, and you're like, I wasn't even ready. I didn't touch yet. It's not open and ready for business. It's still closed and swollen and not maybe lubricated yet, and it hurts and you're not aroused, turned on. Mm-hmm. Okay. So for all these reasons, it's important to understand your power source.
The power of pleasure.
All right. Let's start with setting the mood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you don't need a bunch of like bells and whistles and trapeze doors and vibrators. Although you might want a vibrator and special lighting and music to get in the mood. But if you've never masturbated, I have to say it does help. So you want to be in a comfortable place. And if you have kids, like, lock the door. Have a masturbation area that you have. Like, I have a full-on setup that I pull out my towel. I have my like masturbation towel. I have the few lubes I like. I make sure my toys are charged. But a lot of times they're not, even though it's my job. I'm like, God damn it. But you try to have a few. Have like a wipes. I love having wipes by my bed to wipe off my toy or my fingers right away. But just have something. And lock the door, have music, whatever gets you relaxed. And I have to say that I think taking a bubble bath, if you haven't seen a bubble bath, if you have not seen Big Mouth on Netflix, it how to explain, James? It'll change. It's really gonna. It's sort of. I feel like if I could have come up with that and the way they explained puberty education stuff, that it's brilliant. It's hilarious. Whatever. Check it is.
It's very brilliant.
And she said the hormone monster says, right. So, because here's the thing.
Yeah.
Why we're not masturbating, several reasons. We already laid out. We might not like our vagina. We might also be anxious. We might be stressed. We might have fear, shame. We don't think we have time. When you change your state, like you're like, I'm going to take a bath. And maybe you already take baths, but get in the bath because you're going to be able to wipe off the day. You're going to be able to relax, leave your phone outside there, and just, even if it's for 5 minutes, or take a shower, change your state. When we change our state, we get in the mood. Okay? Go into your bedroom, light some candles. I always light candles, like for myself. Like I seduce myself when I masturbate because I like the scent. I like the flickering of the light. I hate overhead lights. That makes me anxious. I might not even get undressed. I like the feel of fabric. I might leave some underwear on. I like lay down, make sure I'm comfortable, or just friggin' jump into it. That's fine too. You could do that, but make sure you're good. Okay, once it's set, mood is set. You're in your room. You want to start exploring, and just like we tell our partners, or I would like you to tell them, don't go right for your vulva. This is like a date with yourself. Mm-hmm. Think about what this might help you. If you've ever had a passionate moment with a lover that you remember, a super moment where you're like, wow, that was so hot. I was so turned on. That was so sexy. Do that to yourself. So for me, like, and maybe for you, I love when a partner like takes his hand slowly and like rubs them over my chest and my breasts and my neck. And like, he like, you guys, the neck is like full of all these nerve endings and like grazes his fingers over my skin. So do that to yourself. Take some lube or some Woof More Play massage oil is amazing. It's coconut oil, and like rub that down your neck, between your breasts, across your chest, like down your stomach, and like tease yourself. Pay attention to your nipples. Like I didn't even know to explore my nipples that there was like actually a thing where you could have an orgasm from touching your nipples. That women can have orgasms that way. I didn't know. I didn't explore it. I didn't understand. Like, it's very common, and so. Pay attention to them. Just check them out. Like, graze them. See what it feels. Apply pressure. Different taps. You use different taps, different finger pressures. You use one, use a vibrator. And here's the other thing, guys. This is why you can have orgasms. The clitoris and the nipples both feel pleasure from the same part of the brain. So it's like the same part of the brain that is sending, or your clitoral orgasm is also in your nipples. They're close cousins.
And don't just like touch your nipple for 2 seconds. Like take some time.
Take some to tease it.
Tease it.
Flick it around. Play with it. Get to know it. It's like we've all been driving around in clitoral cars that we don't understand how to use.
We're just crashing into stuff.
Crashing into stuff. Understand to drive your body, your breast mobile. That's when you want to tease yourself. Turn yourself on. And then when you're like, oh my God, now I get it. I feel warm. I'm comfortable. Then you can move down to the party. So that's when you get to your vulva. Now, let me just explain this. Vagina. The vagina is like your vaginal opening. It's everything that's happening internally. When I say vulva, I mean like the labia, the clitoris, the pubic mound, or the mons pubis. The pubic mound, which sounds like a national monument.
It does.
I thought that earlier. I was like, kind of sounds like that. And that's the part that is right. People know, like your pelvic floor, like you push on it sometimes. Like I know for me, like when I started to masturbate, like I apply pressure to at my mons pubis. because it's like indirect stimulation to what's going on inside. Maybe the G-spot, some of those clitoral, it's kind of at the top of the clitoral nerves.
Yeah.
So applying pressure.
Yeah, I didn't start doing that until not that long ago, and it feels like it does drive everything a lot more than what you're doing, and it's interesting because it's like you're like, I feel it, but it just adds that little extra oomph.
Yeah. So you hadn't naturally touched it.
I hadn't naturally touched it. Wow. And then, working here and realizing, okay, I need to, because I'm a very much like in and out done masturbator, but I do now take the time at least once a week to do a longer masturbation session, and I've started to figure out new things that I like.
Good. See, never done.
That was one. Never done.
Jay, that's a great one. I used to do that during when I was having sex with someone, and I didn't understand why. Like I would do pressure on it, and then I have them pressure on it like for years. But then I was like, oh, now I understand. So, because it helps facilitate your pleasure and orgasms. Okay, guys. So now back to this. So when you're down there and you're touching down to your vulva, you're teasing yourself. You have to use lube. Like, you know how I feel. I feel strongly about this. Your clitoris is not going to lubricate itself. It just doesn't. Few drops. Reapply as needed. We love Pure. It's a great first lube to try out, or new lube, especially their classic silicone. It lasts longer. You don't have to reapply it much, and it doesn't leave that stickiness to your body or sheets. If you're more sensitive, they also have a water-based lube, Pure, which is amazing. So now, there you are. You're hanging with your vulva. You're connected. You're one. You're breathing. Breath also plays a huge factor in pleasure and getting into your body and really being able to access all that's within you is through breath. And a lot of times we don't learn how to breathe properly. No one ever teaches us that you're supposed to breathe down deep into your pelvic floor and take like 4 deep breaths in and then 4 out. And there's all these different breath works. If you've ever done yoga, like Ujjayi breath, whatever it is, do a conscious breathing practice when you're masturbating, because that'll help relax you. It'll release tension. It'll help with the blood flow. So the blood will start to circulate, and it helps you access more of the energy that is flowing through your body. And it helps you connect more to your power source that is your sexual energy. Okay, so when you get there, start touching around your labia, you guys. Okay, James, you're talking about the pubic mound. For me, that was later for me to understand that by putting like fingers over my labia, like matching them in that V, kind of like the clitoral legs, like a V, and like kind of just holding them over there and like using lube and applying pressure while also touching my clitoris, or sometimes just the labia on their own, felt so good. And to push it in, sometimes you're really stimulating those internal clitoral nerves. And then when you like push up, then you're activating the clitoris, like the butt. So then it's all connected. So that's, do you have that too?
Yeah, I mean, I just started, I was very much.
Do you have that too?
Well, no, I just used to very much just straight
clitoris
for the clitoris and all that. But I started really exploring the labia, the inner labia, like even like on the clitoris, but using the hood, like on the outside of the hood and kind of like on the side.
The side.
Like figuring out. Because all it does is like, I get it. We all want to just get there and get to that end point. But when you drag it out, it's just longer pleasure. That's really what it is.
Exactly. You're teasing yourself and it builds. So that's what the energy is doing, is helping you build. And then you're going to find that you can have all these other pleasure spots. So Jamie, you're so right. The side of the clitoris, that for a lot of women who are really sensitive, or just in general, like there's usually one side of it that has more, that feels better.
Mine is the
It's hard to
right
say, because if you're looking down, it's different.
If you're thinking about it on your own body, so you are me for one moment, the right side is my more sensitive side.
If I'm looking at you right now,
no, like if you were me
and I'm looking down,
so imagine your own clitoris.
Yeah, the right side, and mine's the left. There you go. I wouldn't have known that had I not gone searching for it. Had I not gone
and you
deep
didn't
into
need
the paths
a
of
map.
pleasure, did not need a map. So we're saying is touch it. Let's talk about the touching motions, though, because this is the other thing I've had to learn. There's no right or wrong way to do it. You have to find your own. And I've said this, and now it makes more sense than ever. If you put 100 of your friends in a room and you were all masturbating, you'd all be doing something different. Or 100 women in a room. Maybe you didn't know them because that might sound weird. And everyone does something different. There's no like magic formula. So all I can do is give you some suggestions, and then you're going to find what feels good to you. Now, you might already have this down. You might already be like, yeah, I got hit and quit it. But what I'm telling you is that you're going to find a new way, because there's a lot of different paths. So just because you always did it the same way, like when you were a kid, you have to be in your stomach, or you had to squeeze your legs together. And now you have a hard time orgasming other ways. By exploring this, you're going to find that there's other ways. This is how I learned to have multiple orgasms. Right, James?
Yeah. No, you do. You go back to those times where you feel the pleasure, and you just try to essentially recreate that with a different movement, but with, similar pressures or similar positions or however.
Right.
With your partner or by yourself.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So you can try like a figure 8 motion. If we're going back to specific touch. The pads of the finger, best. Try like a figure 8 motion. You can start at the top of the clitoris, so you go down one side of the vaginal opening and crossing over, so it's like an 8. So you're going up and down, you're just circling slowly. Circling, so we're doing it right now. You could stimulate they're walking lightly over the clitoris, like tiptoe,
That's my favorite.
Is that what you do?
I like that, and then I do also like my middle finger one. When I get more into, when we get to the G spot, it'll make more sense.
Okay.
But I like the walking, because it's kind of like the tip of the tip.
Yeah. But you tiptoe all the way down. Would you do the figure 8 tiptoe, or you would just tiptoe on your...
I just do the like straight in a line on the clit, but then sometimes I'll go lower.
Right.
So I don't just stay on the clit the whole
so you
time.
stroke up and down.
Yeah, and I get to... It's easier for me because my G-spot's very prominent. It's like a lot, I think, closer to the opening than the average G area, as we like to call it here.
Right.
So when I do that, I can kind of like the Garia. I love it. That's what we're calling it, the Garia. Shout out to all guys named Gary.
Yeah.
It's just easier for me to hit both spots.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's also tapping. There's circular motions. They're just the clit or going up and down the labia. You could also spread your labia apart, and you can use the other hand or middle finger to directly stimulate yourself.
Yeah.
Or your partner can do that.
Mm-hmm. That one's good too, because it's like if you're having a hard time, if your clitoris is one of those ones that likes to hide.
Right. But come out.
Just spread it out.
Come on, little clitty. Come here, kitty, clitty. Come on, little clitty. That's exactly what you do. And then it comes out. It's like, hello, here I am. So that's true. Spreading it apart, get in there. That's why the mirror part is important. See how it's all working, because they all look different. You got to know where you're going. It's your map. Like your map is there to figure out where to go to find the pleasure goods. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then you could also orbit. We call this one orbiting. You take the labia and you cover the clitoris with it. Especially if your clitoris is really sensitive, or just that friction can feel good. So you just kind of like tug it up a little, light little tug, place it over the clitoris, and you use it over it for a more indirect stimulation. That feels good too.
It does.
I've done that. See, now I'm remembering things.
I know. I forgot a lot about these techniques.
Okay, so for all you guys, just remember this. Start slow, no pressure. Experiment. What feels good? Do I like harder pressure? Do I like tapping? Do I like fingers? Do you want soft hard touches? Do you want medium? Do you want harder? Like, I like super soft touches. Like, I like at the beginning, like I always start super soft, like barely touching. Like, no, I don't even know if you're there.
Almost
and then
like a
it gets
whisper.
Harder. Like a whisper. Just whisper on my clitoris. It's a whisper. Please whisper to my clit. You said,
sweet nothings.
Will you please whisper sweet nothings to my clitty? That's exactly what I want. I just figured it out. All right. No, really. It's like the womanizer. It's like a whisper. It's a clit whisper. Okay. So yeah, just go slow. Experiment with different pressures. G-spot. We're going to get into that in another show. But just know that, like, take a finger or two inside. It's a come hither motion. Look for a small patch about 2 inches inside anterior wall of the vagina, or go to our website. Google G-spot. That's a great post. But we got to get into your emails. Also, you guys, just remember this, okay? If you've never masturbated before, or you're not like, you just feel like you're not psyched about it, it doesn't feel great, it's not happening, it takes time. It takes time. Don't give up after 10 minutes. It's a new practice, like exercise. When I started running, I used to run for 10 minutes at a time. And then I ran a marathon at some point. So just go slow. And the goal is not orgasm. It's okay. It's pleasure. It's understanding your body, understanding what makes you feel good so you can have more pleasure in your life and don't have to like obsess about the orgasm, obsess about finding what makes you feel good so you can have more pleasure in life, and you'll be able to explain that to your lucky ass partners.
And that was the Clit
Clit
notes.
101. Your Clit notes. All right.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
guys. I'm all excited to go masturbate again now.
I hope everyone is.
I hope everyone is. Let us know what you think. Send us any questions. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into your emails. Okay, guys, we're back. We're ready. We're here for you. We are going to answer your questions. We love answering your questions. I love doing it. It's my favorite thing. If you want to send a question, go to sexwithemily.com, click the Ask Emily tab, fill out the short form, check yes if you'd like to be called. Also, go to SiriusXM, you guys. You guys can call Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific, 888-947-8277. Call SiriusXM. Or email us feedback@sexwithemily.com. As always, include your name, your age, where you live, and how you listen to the show. All right, Jane.
Okay, this first one comes to us from Callie, 21, in Ontario. She writes, "Hi, Emily. I've listened to your show for a few years, and it's been really helpful for me, so thank you for all the work you do. My boyfriend and I have been together for a little over a year and have a really great relationship, especially our sex life. He took a temporary job out of the country, and the lack of physical intimacy is a bit of a challenge because physical touch is very much my love language. We've tried video sex, but are having some trouble having fun with it. I bought a Wii Vibe so that he can control it, and that's fun, but we aren't really sure what to do and say. We do some BDSM stuff together, and I think that would be fun to involve. I'm just not sure how. If you have any suggestions to improve video sex or suggestions for other ways to improve intimacy while he's away, I would really appreciate it. Thank you."
All right, Callie, this is a great question. This is a really good email because we've been talking lately about how it is a little bit easier to be in a long distance relationship right now with all the technology that's available. But I like this because it's like, yeah, but how do you actually do it? You're like, I got the toys, I got the boyfriend, it's long distance, we're trying, but like, it's the same thing of like, how do I talk to my partner about, using toys in real life? Like, how do you make this happen? And also physical touch, when that's your love language, is also hard when you're long distance. So let's try to maximize this. Have a real date where you're like, let's have a glass of wine so you can just kind of have the foreplay or even the mental foreplay that you might need just to jump right into the sex. So you got to set the mood just like you would if you were in the same room. Treat it like a real date. And then get to the sex part where you like lead up to it. You talk about what's going to happen. That's really hot. Like what I'm going to do to you next. And then you make it happen. Use the toy. Maybe you show him tell him what you want. Maybe you let him know ahead of time what you want. And then you play together. Plan the video dates ahead of time, whether it's through phone sex, sending an email or text, talking more about what you'd like to happen on the date and laying the groundwork. Mm-hmm. All right. That's what we like about that. Let's have fun with your long distance. And that's how you enhance intimacy, is by having these real conversations.
Okay, this next one is from Ken. He's 40 in Ireland. He writes, "Hi, Emily. I'm an avid listener, have been listening to your podcast for a few years, and I have a few things I could use your help with. I'm a married man of 15 years, but have feelings for another woman. I see her several times a week, but most contact is professional. As my feelings have grown towards her over the last 2 years, I have stepped back as much as I can. I see her weekly, but purely professional. I have not told this person nor anyone else how I feel. How can I stop these feelings as they are driving me crazy? Which brings me to my other point. I know I have these feelings as there's something missing in my marriage. We have no kids, but live a busy lifestyle, so sex is scheduled twice a week. But lately this has been slipping. And it's always the same and boring. My wife has no interest in sex or masturbating. I've talked to her several times about spicing up our sex life, such as giving and receiving oral, and she says okay, but then nothing ever happens. I've tried just about everything you've mentioned on your podcast, but nothing is working. What do you do when your normal playbook doesn't work? I love my wife and don't want to get divorced, but I can't help but think things are not going to get better. I want to save it, but I'm wondering if it's time to call it quits."
All right. Okay, I read this twice, Ken, because I really, really wanted to and then Jamie just read it. So that's a lot of times for me. Listen, I really want to help you here, Ken, and I love that you've been listening for so long, because you're like, okay, Emily, and I know what you're going to say here, and I know what you're going to say here, and I've tried everything. I tried everything you mentioned, and nothing is working. And I believe that you have. I believe that you really want this to work with her, with your wife of 15 years, because I'm sure you had it at the beginning. And you've tried. You talked to her a few times. It didn't work. She maybe has never masturbated in her life. We don't know why. Maybe she's had some shame around masturbation. Maybe she's been disconnected. Maybe she had some trauma. We don't know. So a few times you try to talk to her about spicing it up, and she's still in her own way not connected to her body. So I think what you have to do here is know that it's not about this other woman, that going off and having a fling and cheating with someone else is the last thing you should do. That's just going to be like a little Band-Aid, a shot of dopamine that's going to make you feel better for a second. But what you got to do with all that energy and time that you are thinking about that woman is turn it towards your wife right now. Turn it towards making this relationship great again. So keep things professional with her and know that the quicker you do this and let go of it, because you led with this woman and I'm like, no, you have so much heart in this and you still love your wife and you're at your wit's end and you're throwing your hands up in the air and you think you're never gonna get your needs met and that you got to go meet it by some other professional woman. But that's not true. What you got to do is you got to bring it up to her again and again, maybe a few more times. But the ultimate goal is getting her to realize that sex is a priority in a relationship, that you love her, that you love your sex life, that you want to be connected to her again, that you need that intimacy, that you've learned so much perhaps by listening to this podcast and that it opened you up. Or you don't have to mention my name, but you could just say that, because when you bring it up to her again, she's going to feel like, oh, I haven't been pleasing you, you've been my husband, you're angry, because we automatically get on the defense. So you have to let her know that you've actually learned more in the 15 years, what's possible. And that in the past, you were asking her to masturbate and do these things and it wasn't working. And you realize that maybe it's a bigger thing that you guys have to work on together. But that intimacy and sex and connection is so important for the relationship, and that you know that she could learn to enjoy it and have pleasure, but you need her to kind of come on over to your side. And however you want to say that to her, use your words in a loving way without blaming her or shaming her, and it's outside the bedroom. And I do think after 15 years, therapy might be the best bet here. Because when you get to the point of emailing about another woman to me, I feel like this is like desperate times. Like this, you are at the end. I think that, Ken, that you need to let her know that it's really like, it's a place where it's really hurting. It's really hard that you're having a challenge because you don't feel connected to her and you love her so much. And since you are at this point, that's why I think that therapy helps people fast track it. It's either going to help you realize if you could stay or go, but you got to like do something to move this in the direction so you don't make a step you will regret. Thanks, Ken. Thanks for your email. I appreciate it.
Okay, this next one is from Sarah, who's 23 in the UK. She writes, "Hi, Emily. Thank you for the amazing podcast. Since I started listening to you a few months back, it's been like losing my virginity all over again. It's so exciting, and I can't wait to experiment more. My only problem is I've been in 3 relationships, which ranged from 6 months to 3 years, which have all ended so badly. I'm a sensitive soul, and I feel slightly traumatized by them. I'm currently waiting for therapy, and I feel that it's important to not get into anything serious with anyone until I've gone through that therapy. However, I did just start sleeping with this guy, and it's honestly the best sex that I have ever had, and I can feel myself starting to get feelings for him. 90% of the time, when I have sex with people, I catch feels and become blinded by any flaws they may have. It's like I'm unable to see if they're actually right for me or not. Anyways, I'd love to get your advice on how to just have sex and not think into things or get feelings. I'd love to know, as I want to focus on me, but I also have an incredibly high sex drive. Thanks again for being you."
Aw, thanks, Sarah. Thanks for being you, Sarah. I have to say that I'm really impressed by your email, and you are so wise and thoughtful. And you're 23 years old, and you're recognizing really cool things about yourself that a lot of people never get there. So what you're realizing is that you have this pattern that you are already like realizing that you're not picking the right people. You get attached, like a lot of us do after we have sex. We get attached, we have orgasm, we think we're in love. But it's happened to you a lot, and you know that you're a sensitive soul, and then you feel traumatized. Like at 23, you're already using the word trauma. And you're already emailing you because it's happening again. And you're like, I don't want to do this again. I want to change it. So I love that you mentioned therapy, because I really do think that you are ready for it and that you know yourself really well. So I would try to either just until you get into that therapy, but I think the sooner you will, or just start thinking about some of the things that I'm going to tell you, is that maybe you don't need to be dating right now for a little bit. And maybe it's time that you do some of the things that, you know, you've been listening to the show that we talk about, is that like, get things like settled. Like you use the word trauma, 3 years, you've already had a 3-year relationship. No, stop the madness. Take time and figure out who you are, Sarah, without someone in your life right now. And Like figure out like because I feel like something with attachment here, or like there's something about a man like that you need to feel loved and supported. Usually goes back to our childhood, and repeat these things until we stop. We're like, I don't want to keep going, and understand like who you are without a man. Because you need to. I feel like you're getting attached because you're not feeling so safe on your own without a man. So I think it's really important for you to just take time and say, you know what, I'm not running out of time. There's always going to be plenty of men. But who am I without one? How do I move through life? What's interesting to me? Like what's interesting to me is a 23-year-old now, Sarah, who I'm going to assume you've been in a relationship forever. So I say take that time, and then to focus on, since you say you have a high sex drive, go back and listen to the Clit journal, the Clit notes. Take some time masturbating, taking care of your own pleasure, and building a community around you of super kick-ass women that you love, that are your friends, that will fill you, that are your people, or men. Be friends with whoever, but take care of you, get into therapy, and then go back to dating. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, and this last one is from John, who's 41 in Pennsylvania. He writes, "Hi, Emily. Love your podcast. Whenever I'm getting ready to spend time with my girlfriend, I listen to it. It helps me focus on being the best partner and making sure we're doing all that we can to have a healthy relationship sexually and emotionally. Here's my question. I've got some very thick facial hair. I try to shave regularly, but some weekends, if I haven't shaved in the morning and we're being intimate, my face will rub on her cheek and cause irritation and chafing. I try to be gentle and avoid it, but it happens. Is there any moisturizer or cream I could apply to prevent this? Thanks."
Okay. Thank you, John. I love this. Like straight to the point. Okay, what can I do here to not scratch her? So you have thick facial hair. You could use a beard oil, or there's a beard oil / wash from Lush. There's a beard oil. They make a lot of beard oils. You just put it on the hair, kind of makes them less rough. You can also shampoo and condition your beard hair. You could even try to shave or trim it during the evening before you go to bed. I don't think it's a huge problem. You can totally work around it. You could shave it off. I mean, how much do you really want to, I think you just got to experiment with it, see what feels good to you. So try some of these things that relax it, try trimming it, and see how it goes.
Okay.
Maybe you got to shave it off. I don't know. But thanks, John. Great question. I appreciate it. Okay. Good questions. Good calls today. Good.
Yeah, always.
Good emails today. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I love you all so much. Thanks for your support. Thanks to my amazing team, Ken, Samantha, Julia, Michelle, producer Jamie, and Michael. Was it good for you? Email me, feedback@sexwithemily.com.